Good evening and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. I'm Kevin Castley. Thank you for being here this evening. Happy Thanksgiving to my American viewers outside the West Coast currently. I am going to be discussing Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden's potential tapping of Mike Morell, former CIA director, to again become the director of the CIA. So if you don't know who Mike Morell is, this is going to be an interesting stream then for you. I mean, this is the sort of guy that yeah, when we talk about just the hawk pill, when we talk about all that kind of stuff, this guy knows what's up. This guy absolutely knows what's up. Yeah. So basically, there we go. Yeah. So basically, Mike Morell, he's potentially being considered for the CIA leadership by Joe Biden. But we got an article. We actually have a couple pieces that we're going to take a look at. The first is a short clip. It's about a minute and a half from Charlie Rose's show back on August 8th, 2016. So, 4 years ago, basically, in, the pre-Trump era, essentially. It was still the era of cringe, but it was Obama's era of cringe at that point. Very, very wise and honestly based words that we're going to take a look at from Mr. Morell. And yeah, so I see we got Henry here in the chat. He says, happy Thanksgiving. So yeah, I'm on the West Coast. A lot of people are on the West Coast, but most of the viewers are outside of the West Coast. So, and most of the viewers of this channel are in the United States. So happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Yeah. So Mike Morell, here's the thing about him. He's absolutely 100% pilled on national security. And we're going to take a look at this clip right here. Just an amazing clip. Let me just get this ready. So this is him on the Charlie Rose show. And Charlie Rose basically asked him about his intentions towards Syria, in particular, Bashar the Butcher, Assad, and also brings up Iran and the Russians. Now, keep in mind, Morell is the director of the CIA, so he knows a thing or two about the extent to which the fascist Russians, the Islamofascist Iranians, are counter to our interests, are counter to the West, or are propping up Bashar the Butcher and his tyranny in Syria. So, I mean, and the answer we get here, because Mr. Morell, he could have said something very simple like, oh, we should get tough on Assad or whatever. But no, he straight up outlines just some alpha moves. And we're going to take a look at that. So here we go. Let's take a look. Again, this is the Charlie Rose show, 2016, August 2016. Here we go.
I'd give them the things that they need to both go after the Assad government, but also to have the Iranians and the Russians pay a little price, right? When we were in Iraq, the Iranians were giving weapons to the Shia militia who were killing American soldiers, right? The Iranians were making us pay a price. We need to make the Iranians pay a price in Syria. We need to make the Russians pay a price. The other thing I would do...
We make them pay the price by killing Russians?
Yes.
And killing Iranians?
Yes. Covertly. So you don't tell the world about it, right? You don't stand up at the Pentagon and say, we did this, right? But you make sure they know it in Moscow and Tehran. Here's the other thing I want to do. I want to go after those things that Assad sees as his personal power base, right? I want to scare Assad. So I want to go after his presidential guard. I want to bomb his offices in the middle of the night.
Well, that happened about 2 years ago. As you remember, when his brother-in-law was
I want to destroy his presidential aircraft on the ground. I want to destroy his presidential helicopters. I want to make him think we're coming after him, right? I'm not advocating assassinating him. I am not advocating that. I'm advocating going after what he thinks is his power base, right, and what he needs to survive. I want him to think about this is not going to end well for me, right? I want to put pressure on him. I want to put pressure on the Iranians. I want to put pressure on the Russians to come to that diplomatic settlement.
Yeah. So essentially, you see it right there. You see it right there. This guy, Mike Morell, he says straight up, I want to terrify Assad. I want to bomb his stuff. I want to bomb his aircraft. I want to bomb his office. I want to essentially make him white in the face with terror that he knows that he's next. Now, I did say 100%. I did say 100% based earlier. I take that back. Mike Morell, 99% based. Why not 100%? Here's 100% based. I want to drone Assad. I want to kill Assad. Scared. Okay, we could have scared him back in 2011. Could have scared him before the uprising. At this point, well, I mean, in fairness, this was 2016. 2016 is 5 years too late. The dude should have been dead a long, long time ago. So this isn't about scaring him, because what's that going to do? Is he just going to have a change of heart and say, oh, I give up power or whatever? If he does that, he's for sure dead. So he's just going to bunker down no matter what. So you have to take him out. But for me, I obviously recognize that a simple assassination isn't going to solve the problem. The Assad system will continue. The regime will fight on, although with a new dictator, basically. That's not a surefire solution. Now, it's a lot better than doing that against North Korea, where if you take out Kim, it makes no difference whatsoever. Then you wind up with his sister, and she kills 10 times as many people as he did. So taking out Assad would be a huge blow. It would be a great thing to do. Morell isn't even actually suggesting that, but this enraged the aggressive gremlins over on Twitter, the progressives. And, we could look at a bunch of different brainlet takes, but I don't really feel like doing that tonight. This one's going to be a little bit of a shorter stream. So we'll take a look at a more high-profile aggressive gremlin. And for that, we're going to go to the Daily Beast. They've got an article out on this from, I believe it was yesterday. So let's take a look. Let's just screen share over there. Oh, and before we do that, I do want to say, though, he's basically saying, we have to make them pay. We have to not just make Assad pay, but make the Iranians pay and make the Russians pay. Because Morell understands they've gotten big wins. And again, this is 4 years ago, right? But the logic is even more exemplified today, that they have a lot of blood on their hands. A lot of our allies, a lot of Kurdish blood on their hands, a lot of innocent people in the region. Are we going to let them get away with this scot-free? I don't think so. I mean, that's the sort of thing. We need people like this back in power, because if we don't, if we keep on going with this whole, but that would be bad. We don't want to do bad things. It's like, yeah, they're bad guys. It's good to do bad things to bad guys, right? And then we're going to lose. It's like Bob Kagan says, essentially, that there's no guarantee that the good guys win at the end of the day. Because if the good guys aren't willing to fight, then, as he terms it, the jungle, the authoritarians, the despots, the barbaric despotisms of the forces of darkness, they will consume Eurasia, and they will relegate us to an irrelevant, lonely outpost on the Americas instead of a superpower, instead of a hegemon. So there's no guarantee that we win. We need fighters. We need to fight like our lives are on the line, because they are. And for that, you want to have somebody like Mr. Morell at the CIA. You don't want to have somebody like Jill Stein or Bernie Sanders, You don't want to have an isolationist over there. You want to have somebody who's going to actually make moves, because our enemies are making moves. So somebody has to counter them. So we'll take a look at this article now from the Daily Beast. Biden weighs Mike Morell as his CIA chief. A key Democrat senator says, don't bother. Spy wars. Okay, so this is by Aaron Blanco, Hannah Trudeau, Spencer Ackerman, and Sam Stein. So with that said, let's get into this. Quote, sources say Morell is a leading candidate to be Biden's CIA director. But his defenses of the agency's, I like this, torture and drone strikes are already drawing progressive, or as I call them, the aggressive gremlins, opposition. Oh yeah, torture. It's torture. So it's the Daily Beast. We're already off to the bias here. Immediately just saying enhanced interrogation is torture. Okay, we'll move past that. Let's get into the crux of the article. But I like the implicit bias that they already snuck in. We're not even at the first paragraph of the actual article, and we're already getting the bias in the header. So there you go. Anyway, let's continue, shall we? So, President-elect Joe Biden is strongly considering Mike Morell, the former acting director of the Central Intelligence Agency, to run the CIA, according to 4 individuals familiar with the matter. By the way, this article was dated November 24th, so that was yesterday. But those familiar with the process say that other candidates are still in the mix for the position of the nation's top spy chief. Morell served as deputy CIA director for 3 years. For 3 years under President Barack Obama, and also worked as acting director of the agency twice. So he's got a lot of experience, and he's actually run the agency in the past. According to 3 of the 4 sources familiar with the matter, the president-elect was considering both Morell and Avril Haines, another former deputy CIA director, for the position. But in an announcement Monday afternoon, Biden picked Haines, former But an announcement Monday, Biden picked Haines, the former deputy director for the CIA and deputy national security advisor under Obama, to become director of national intelligence. 2 of the aforementioned sources said that Biden is also considering Tom Donnellan for the post. Donnellan served as Obama's national security advisor in his deep roots in Biden world. Okay, Biden world, that's a word I haven't seen before. His brother, Mike Morell, has already been tapped as a White House senior advisor for the president-elect. Another name said to be in the mix is Jay Johnson, the former director of the Department of Homeland Security. Others told the Daily Beast Johnson was under consideration for the role of Attorney General. As one source said of the current staffing considerations, too many people, too few chairs. Biden's presidential transition team declined to comment. Among those on Biden's CIA shortlist, Morell may have the most directly relevant experience, but potentially be the hardest to confirm. Yeah, that's because we are living in the era of cringe, and having a strong spy chief is seen as triggering and offensive and I guess not woke, because we should be nice to Assad, and we should be nice to Putin, and we should be nice to the Ayatollah, and we should be nice to Kim, and we should just get a Westphalian fetish and say, oh, that's their sovereignty, bro. That's their sovereignty. He can butcher 500,000 people. That's cool. That's cool. It's his sovereignty, bro. It's like, oh, Hitler's invading the Sudetenland. Oh, Hitler's invading Poland. That's just his sovereignty, bro. You know? Anyway, let's continue with the article. That's because his selection would risk inflaming the Democratic Party's progressive wing. Again, I call them the aggressive gremlins, the aggressive gremlin wing. A career CIA analyst who played a significant role in the hunt for Osama bin Laden and was George W. Bush's intelligence briefer on September 11th. Morell was an aggressive defender of the agency's use of, here we go again, torture and drone strikes. Ooh, spooky. Ooh, spooky. He's drone pilled. He's drone pilled. Yeager talks about that. I'm just going to stop the screen share for a minute. We'll come back to that. He's drone pilled, guys. Can you believe it? How spooky is that? a CIA director, twice acting CIA director, supports the use of drones. Ooh, spooky. And torture. Right. Lovely framing by the Daily Beast here. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything different, but we take a look at different sources and everything from time to time. So yeah, I mean, W.R. Winters here in the chat. Why do we even have a CIA? Very imperialist, bro. That's a good point. Me personally, I prefer the CIA directors not to be into drone strikes and stuff, but into like giving cake and cupcakes to Bashar the Butcher and Putrid Putin and Chimichanga over in Pyongyang. But hey, that's just me. I like Kyle Kolinsky and I like Jimmy Dore and Abby Martin and everything. No. Can we just get back into the real world for a minute, guys? He was the director of the CIA. He supports drone strikes. That's like the least surprising bit of information contained in this article so far. It would be a shocker if he didn't support drone strikes. Drone strikes are vastly less deadly in terms of collateral damage than, say, carpet bombing or older means of, incendiary ordnance, that kind of stuff. Are we seriously going to be criticizing Mike Morell for supporting drones? I criticize the neoliberals by and large on this channel for, how they'll often call themselves like, oh, it's base, we support drones and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you support drones against limited terrorist actors in specific areas like Yemen, Pakistan, Iraq. But you guys oppose actual intervention in North Korea and Iran and everywhere else because you want to trade with those countries, basically. You want to do deals and stuff and diplomacy, bro. So for me, I look at drones. I'm like, drones are weak. Like, I'm nuke pilled, right? But for Mike Morell, he supports drones. That's tame. Like, if I was the director of the CIA, I'd be like, why don't we just plant a tactical nuke under Assad's blood palace and blow it up? Then it doesn't matter if he's in his office or he's in his bedroom or whatever. Either way, he's mushroom cloud particulate at that point. How about that? That would send a message. That'd send a big message. But seriously, that's amazing. You're gonna be critical. You're gonna vote against the CIA director. Like, okay, who could potentially run the CIA who doesn't support drones? To me, that's disqualifying. Like, if you're going to become nominated for director of the CIA and we find out that you're against drone strikes and you're against interrogation, well, at that point, that's like hiring a child. That's literally like hiring a 6-year-old who doesn't know anything. Like, he's just learning his times tables and stuff to be the director of the CIA. And you know what? There's a chance that 6-year-old would actually do a better job than somebody like Bernie Sanders or whatever, because at least the 6-year-old might just be like, oh, I've got these experts around me and they're telling me that I should probably do this. I guess I'll sign off on that. And then I'll go back to like playing Fortnite or whatever. Like, seriously. There's a chance a 6-year-old who's never even heard of a drone before would make a better CIA director than a professional adult who's potentially going to be tapped for the CIA who's against drones. So what are we supposed to do? So no drones. So are we going to go back to carpet bombing like Vietnam? Go back to napalm? Go back to like just like vast swaths of territory getting bombed, and then the actual targets might even escape because it's not precise enough? Drones are very accurate. Yes, there's collateral damage. Collateral damage is a part of war. That's unfortunate. But drones have greatly reduced the death toll from these types of bombing operations. Compare drones to... We don't even need to talk about World War II. Just compare modern drone warfare to what airstrikes were like 30 years ago, 35 years ago. It's not even close. So if you actually cared about civilians, you actually cared about innocent people, you would support drone strikes. You would support the development of more precise ordnance, right? But no, he supports drone strikes. Can you believe it? Can you believe the former director of the CIA supports drone strikes? See, this is something that Reese talks about, how whenever you're dealing with people like Kyle Kolinsky, Kremlin Kyle or whatnot, they'll say one sentence or a fragment of a sentence, and just the words contained in that are so dumb and contain so many implicit nuggets of bias and stupidity that it takes 20 minutes to respond to. Like, how you even do that? I mean, because a lot of people would say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, the progressives are going to be opposed to him because he supports drone strikes. And I'm like, wait, we're not talking about director of the Environmental Protection Agency, though I would prefer my director of the EPA also support drone strikes, but that's just me. You know, it's not relevant to the job, so it doesn't really matter. But CIA, yeah, that's kind of relevant. That's kind of something that, like, if you're going to be somebody that has the experience requisite to be considered for that position, being against drones, how would you even make it up the ladder that far? Like, oh yeah, I want to join the CIA and stuff and get experience for like 30 years, but like, I'm against drones, I'm against spying, I'm against mean things. Good thing good, bad thing bad. I watch Shoe on Head, bro. I watch I watch Vosh, I watch Kyle Kolinsky. It's like, dude, what are you doing at the CIA? Like, are you a spy for the Russians? Because that's the only way I could see somebody like that making it to the CIA. So I guess we'll continue with the article, but I do want to get a look at the chat first, because this is pretty funny. This is pretty funny. It's just, it's moments like that where it's like, oh, they're against him because he's for drones. It's like, yeah, he's the CIA director. Of course he's going to be for drones. It's like, you know what that's like? That's like refusing to nominate somebody to be the head of the EPA because they're for environmental regulations. It's like, oh, interesting. I'm pretty sure that's like their entire job is managing environmental regulations. Now, for me personally, I'm for a lot of deregulations, but you know, we have to have environmental regulations in place, and a lot of environmental regulations are actually good. Some of them are excessive, some of them are onerous, some of them create deadweight losses that exceed any benefit. But let's keep it real, the EPA does have an important job. So to say, oh, the director of the EPA, can you believe it? I heard that he cares about the environment. It's like, yeah. I'd be surprised if the director of the EPA didn't care about the environment. Likewise here. Can you believe the director of the CIA, he actually admitted he supports drone strikes? It's like, yeah, he's the director of the CIA, dude. That's like saying, like, oh man, can you believe like James Bond feels comfortable holding a gun? It's like, yeah, he's 007. He's comfortable holding a gun. That's what he does. Amazing brainlet read. Just staggering levels of what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not ignorance. It's more malicious than ignorance. It's just, it basically gets to the level of almost borderline sedition, to the point where you want your leaders to be so weak and feckless that anytime anybody that's not weak and feckless is considered for any position of leadership, your knee-jerk reaction is to oppose them. It's like, okay, but whose side are you on? Are you with Bashar the Butcher, or are you with liberal America? Those are your choices. Like, there's no gray area. Like, this is a Cold War between us and the Russians. So, but we'll take a look at the chat. Hungry Country Ball is here. Yes. Why do you do this at 2:30 in the morning? Okay, so he's likely on the well, I guess he's probably on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. I work until 10 usually on the West Coast. By the time I get home and have dinner and everything, it's usually about an hour and a half before I go live, hence 11:30 Pacific, 2:30 Eastern. So that explains that. But if you'd like to make this my full-time job so I could stream earlier, You can check out my Patreon. Links in the description below. So, cheeky little plug there. Mexicanator says, Happy Thanksgiving, Kevin. Well, yeah, no, Happy Thanksgiving, Mexicanator. Stanley and Trevor are here. Happy Thanksgiving, Kevin. America is coming back. Oh, I hope so. I hope so, right? As long as Biden doesn't go back to the Iran deal and stuff like that. Like, as long as Biden gets serious and actually nips the Iranian regime in the bud before they get nukes, absolutely. But, yeah, why do we even have a CIA? Very imperialist, bro. Central Bakery Agency. Yeah, that's right. They just like bake cupcakes and stuff. Who wants to do drones when you can like send Valentines and cupcakes and stuff to brutal dictators around the world? Drones would be bad. Cupcakes are good. Don't you like cupcakes? Because we're bad, right? Oh, sure. Assad started a war that killed 500,000 people, but like stopping him, that would be war, and war is bad. Good thing good, bad thing bad. Hashtag subscribe to Shuanhead. That's basically the level of stupidity that we're dealing with. Hungry Country Ball says, actually, I have seen people who want to abolish the CIA. Like, what? Yeah, those people are either fifth columns and seditious saboteurs for the Russians, or they are useful idiots for the Russians. Those are your two choices. Either you're a fifth column, you know what you're doing, and you're on their side, or you're an idiot and you're helping them without even realizing it. W.R. Winter says, pro-drone is the bare minimum. Exactly. Like, that's the thing with the neolibs, is like, we don't even really disagree about the drone strikes. It's just the problem is they think they're so edgy and stuff with the drones. And it's like, oh yeah, like we're all about the drones and everything. It's like, okay, but that's the first entry level. That's the entry level. Like, it starts at the drone pill, it ends at the nuke pill. You guys just crossed the door. Like, you're just inside the door. That's not like bragging rights worthy. Curtis LeMay bragging rights are, worthy. Thomas Power bragging rights worthy. Douglas MacArthur bragging rights worthy. Jimmy Carter, Barack Obama, not so much. So Maximus the Great says, it's either drones or carpet bombing. Take your pick. Yeah, that's exactly it. These people don't get it. Of course, they would say, if you said that to them, that's a false dichotomy, because they would choose surrender to the Russians and Assad. But that's our point, that they're on their side, that they're not on our side. W.R. Winter says, collateral damage. Yeah, that's right. They also think that collateral damage is done on purpose. That's a topic for another video. That statement is just so profusely stupid. Oh yeah, no, it was intentional collateral damage, bro. Yeah, it was a purposeful accident. Okay, Brainlet. Let's continue with the article. But see, like, this is what I'm talking about, is like there's so much stupidity packed into it that, and it's not even so much the article, though the article is biased. It's just the progressive mindset is just insane, man. So let's continue. Quote, no torture apologist can be confirmed as CIA director, unquote. Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, told the Daily Beast about Morell. Quote, it's a non-starter, unquote. Okay. Here we go again. A non-starter? No, you know what's a non-starter? If you're going to be an apologist for Bashar the Butcher. Torture apologist? Okay, what torture? Nice phrasing. Second, you know who actually does torture? You should look actually into the record of Hafez al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad, Bashar the Butcher of Syria. You should look into what they do to people that they round up over the last 5 decades, basically, over there. Wow. This is like those people that opposed war with Hitler. Like, oh, he's a warmonger. He wants to stop Hitler. That's basically what we're dealing with. This is the level of absolute seditious isolationism that we're dealing with, where you're a torture apologist if you oppose a torturing tyrant who gasses his own people. I mean, this is like an Onion article. It's like we're in the Twilight Zone, where stopping brutal warmonger dictators that torture and gas their people, like AsSAD, that's bad. Defending them, oh, that's good. That means you're good. You're anti-war. Anti-war is seen as like, oh, it's the biggest virtue signal in the world. I know a lot of people talk about like how like I'm woke, that saying you're woke is the biggest virtue signal in the world. No, saying you're anti-war is the biggest virtue signal in the world. It's meaningless. Because what are you doing? You're implying that there are people out there that actually like war. What, you think any of us hawks and neocons here like war? Seriously? No. The point is, the world is a hellish place. And there are worse evils in the world than war. For example, an intervention into Rwanda back in the run-up to the genocide there, it would have been a war, and guess what? It would have saved about 1 million people. So in that case, what was more evil? Not doing the war and letting the war in Rwanda happen, the genocide in Rwanda happen, or doing the war and saving 1 million lives? Oh, but war, Pat, I'm anti-war, bro. No, every time somebody says that they're anti-war, I want you to translate that. I want you to translate that in your head to they're pro-genocide. Now, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. A lot of people that will say they're anti-war don't think of themselves as pro-genocide. In other words, they're not Abby Martin, they're not Jimmy Dore, they're not Ben Norton, they're not Bootlicker Ben, they're not Max Blumenthal, they're not nefarious about it. They're useful idiots, essentially. They haven't really thought about it very deeply. And so if they say they're anti-war, they're just kind of going along with the crowd. That doesn't necessarily mean that they themselves are evil. Oftentimes it's a place of ignorance and groupthink and wanting to fit in and not wanting to lose friends. I mean, hell, like I've lost friends when I came out as a neocon, for example. That's what happens. But obviously my life is a lot better now. But, cognitive dissonance is not something that anybody should live with. But I'll say this. About the anti-war label. Just because the individual person that identifies as that might not be nefarious or malfeasant, I want you in your mind still to translate that phrase, anti-war. I want you to translate that as pro-genocide, right? Because the actual substance, the actual meaning of that term is pro-genocide. That's the implication of it. I mean, we're talking about Westerners here. So if a Westerner says they're anti-war, that means they don't think that the United States, that the West, should intervene to make the world a better place, to rid the world of evil, to liberate oppressed masses, to cease the genocides that have become prevalent in the world. It means that they're either a useful idiot or they're a fifth column. So that's the deal there. We can get back to the article though. So putting Morell atop the CIA would likely placate a large chunk of the national security establishment, which views his expertise as an asset and believes he would seamlessly step into the lead role at the agency. Yeah, we're going to have to stop it again here. It's not just the national security establishment that believes he would step into the role seamlessly. In fact, I'd be willing to wager even these aggressive gremlins, even Wyden there, would admit that he would seamlessly fill that role. Why? Because he's done it twice in the past, right? You've done a job twice before. It's probably going to be a bit easier for you to do that job coming into it than it is for a new hire that's never actually done it before. And by the way, that's not even like it saying like, oh, I'm just saying that because like I'm a neocon or whatever. You could literally be an isolationist. You could be Jimmy Dore, and you still know that that's true, that he's going to fill that role seamlessly. That's not like a divisive issue. That's not like, oh, some people think he would and other people think he wouldn't. No, everybody knows he's going to know how to do the job the day he arrives there. That's not complicated. Duh. Anyway, let's continue with the article again. Sue Gordon, who served as Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, said that, quote, of the people mentioned for this position, unquote, she knew Morell best. Quote, he would bring a lot of strengths, a quick, analytic mind, leadership at every level at the agency, and a broadened perspective based on his time in the private sector. Okay, we're going to stop it again. In other words, he sounds like he would be an excellent candidate for the position. Sounds like a well-rounded guy. He obviously has the requisite experience. What's the issue? Oh, but he supports drones, Kevin. It's like, yeah, it's the CIA. Let's go back to this. So. Quote, I know him to be committed to the people, the craft, and the delivery of the intelligence the nation needs, unquote. But a Morell nomination would also likely raise immediate questions about whether Biden intends more continuity than departure in the nearly, oh, and here we go, 20-year war on terror. Okay, we're stopping it again. It's been 19 years, bro. Oh, victory is very close. The Taliban went from controlling almost all of Afghanistan to 13% of Afghanistan. It just happened to take 19 years. And that was partly due to wavering commitment on the conflict by American leadership, particularly Obama, and later Trump, of course, to a lesser extent. Yeah, 20 years. What's that supposed to mean? You either have victory or you don't. You don't just say at one point, like, been too long, let's just leave. Dude, you were like, what, 85%, 87% towards victory? Oh, it's been 19 years, bro, I'm out. Okay, so what of the 50,000 Afghan security personnel that died fighting the Taliban? What of the thousands of Westerners who died fighting the Taliban? What of the 30 million Afghan people that are going to be tossed to the wolves and enslaved under the Taliban again? What of the victims of the future 9/11s once we give Afghanistan back as a base to the Taliban so that they can organize with other terrorists to conduct other 9/11 analogous terrorist attacks? What of those people? Oh, what, is that all sunk cost, bro? Because it's, quote, been too long? What do you mean been too long? This those people who say that, they're not even in the military. Almost all of them aren't even in the military. Like, it's a job. Like, what does it matter to you? Like, either the job's done or the job is not. Amazing. No, I'm just, how does it take 30 minutes to get through 2/3 of an article that takes 3 minutes to read? Well, this is how. Because somebody needs to call out the implicit nuggets of cringe that they throw in here. Because a lot of people, who don't have the time to focus on this to the extent that I do, will read this and they'll brush over all of that and they won't really think about it. I'm sure if they really sat down here like I'm doing tonight to really think about it, they would realize, wait, why is 20 years thrown in there? What does it matter? Like, it could be 80 years. And you're like, okay, but you're almost there. Like, what's the point? You know what that would be like? Be like running a marathon. And you run the marathon and you run 96% of the marathon. And, like, you can literally see the finish line. Like, granted, it's hazy and you're exhausted and you're tired and your brow is, awash in sweat, right? But you can still make out the finish line. And then you say, and you're at the Olympics, right? Like, the world is watching. And then you put your hands up and you say, I guys, I'm out. And you're like, what? You were gonna win. You were gonna win gold. And you're like, it been too long. Been too long, dude. Been too long. You're like, I ran 96% of a marathon. That's too long, man. That's too much distance, bro. Too much time. You're like, yeah, you were running that in record speed. Nobody's ever done it that fast before. What do you mean, being too long? It's like, yeah, if I can't run the marathon in 26 minutes, man, I'm out. I'm out, bro. I'm out. It ain't happening. And just gets up and leaves and like comes in last place. Doesn't even finish. All the training years, everything, just like, yeah, I'm out, bro. I'm out. That's basically what pulling out of Afghanistan would be like. Except, of course, tens of thousands of people dying in vain. You know, quite a bit worse than a few years from an athletic career wasted, right? So I hate this, man. I hate that our internet is awash in this absolute bunk and junk narrative. The 20 years is irrelevant. That shouldn't be there. Like, oh, you say, oh, it's been nearly 20 years. What's that supposed to mean? They included that for a reason. They included that to say, hey, look, it's been too long, bro. What do you mean it's been too long? What do you mean it's been too long? So, W.R. Winter says, what did Liz think the drone rate casualty was? 50, 85, probably 99. Didn't she say at one point that, like, no, it wasn't her. It was some Tulsi fan said that 98% of the deaths from U.S. drones are civilians. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. It's just patently untrue. The thing that's dumb about it is I don't even think you could get a pro-Russian source that would even say that was the case. Even they're going to be like 90%. 98%, that's just absolute ridiculous. They don't care. They don't care. And they want you to think like, oh, they're so virtuous. They've done the research and they're concerned and everything. No, they just make numbers up, man. They just make numbers up. Hungry Country Ball says he's on the Senate Intelligence Committee. That's right. Yeah, there's some very big brainlets on the Senate Intelligence Committee. It's true. W.R. Winter notes, you can't go 2 sentences without stumbling over regressive nonsense. No, it's totally true. Totally true. That's what's been happening all night here. We're trying to get through a relatively short article, and you can't do it. You can't do it because it would be, it would be a dereliction of my job here. I mean, you guys, some of you guys, the biggest patrons here pay me to do what I do. It would be an absolute dereliction of my job as the host of this channel, as the host of Superpowered Broadcasting, if I just read you this article and then moved on. I have to point out the hidden and implicit nuggets of bias against Western interests, against the national interests, against our civilization, that aid the enemy, that aid Bashar the Butcher, that enable putrid Putin, that sing the praise of Kim Il-sung over in Pyongyang. I have to do it. I can't. Like, it would be better for me to not stream tonight. It would be better for me to not stream tonight. It would be better for me to not stream for the next month than for me to come on here and read this article the whole way through and then move on. Because you might say, well, Kevin, we're all hawks here. You don't need to go over this like we're children or whatever. No, I get you. Like, if we're talking about Maximus and W.R. Winter, we're talking about Henry, we're talking about, if Natalie shows up, Kamal Jeet, all these awesome people, Wyatt, etc. I get it. You guys already know this stuff. But understand, Kremlin Kyle has like almost 1 million subscribers. We're not even at 500 yet. The vast majority of the internet doesn't realize. It's not that they're bad people. It's not that they're like, they love Putin or they love Bashar the Butcher. They just haven't thought about this. Nobody's ever explained this. Nobody's ever really dissected these implicit biases before. So that's my job. That's why I'm doing this. So if you're out there and you're listening to me right now and you're tired and you're like, Kevin, you kind of repeated yourself, which to some extent I have, or you don't need to tell me this or anything. Good. I'm glad that you're in that position. That means that you're aware of the actual issues. It means you're hawk-pilled to some extent. It means you understand that national security doesn't care about your feelings. Most people aren't there yet. And somebody's got to get them there. That's me. I'm Kevin Castley. That's what I do here. So, I mean, hell, I was on the Politicrats channel the other day. We were talking with paleocons, talking with neo-reactionaries, talking with anti-interventionists, and a lot of the chat was anti-interventionists. And at the end of it, people are like, this is the most base neocon I've ever heard. He's making unequivocally based points right now, saying things like, that could actually work. Well, that's kind of why I'm here, right? Somebody has to usher an end to the era of cringe. Somebody has to uphold the interests of our civilization. Somebody has to get our culture back on track, because nobody else is doing that. You turn on CNN, and what's it going to be? Oh, Obama said this, Trump said that, or Biden said this, Trump said that. Or you turn on Fox, and it's just like, Putin's the good guy. Or you turn on MSNBC, and they say like, oh, Trump should get tough on Putin. But then if Trump does get tough on Putin, oh, that would be war. We're bad. Orange man bad. No, for once, can we just get some principled neocons out there? They're actually going to speak truth to this delusion, this vast and completely pervasive delusion in our civilization. Well, that's why I'm here. So let's continue. We'll continue with the article. Yeah, Biden intends more continuity than departure in the 20-year war on terror, despite saying on the campaign trail that he agreed with ending endless wars. We're stopping it again. You all know I'm stopping it again, especially after what I just said. Endless wars? Endless wars. No, you know how you end the endless wars? You end them by winning them. If you surrender and you pull out, guess what? You didn't make the war go away. You're going to have to go back there sooner or later when they strike you again. You've just meant that all the fight up to that point was in vain. It was for naught. Ironically here, the neocons going to make these things relatively quick and get it over with. It's the anti-war people that want to drag this out. They want to pull out, and then another terrorist attack happens because you pulled out. Because right now the Taliban's busy on fighting against America and the West and the Afghan security personnel. You pull out, now they've got the country to themselves. They don't have to deal with that anymore. Now they can get back to their business, plotting international terrorism. So then you got to go back in, and now it's another 20-year war. I'm against endless wars too. I want these things to be over. Like, I want peace, but it has to be a meaningful peace. Was 9/11 a meaningful peace when the Taliban controlled Afghanistan? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. So let's just get this over with. You can end the war when you have victory. You don't end the war. You don't end the war just because it's been X number of years. That's current year brainletry. It's like, oh, did you know it's current year, bro? And we're still in some war. It's like, okay, but have we met the conditions for victory? It's like, not yet. It's like, okay, so we'll be there for a few more years. Okay, right? And it's like, if you don't like that or whatever, don't sign up for the military. The military has a job to do. They're the toughest people in society. So, I mean, like, have you ever heard? Well, I mean, you've heard Tulsi and you've heard Jesse Ventura. You've heard misfits and stuff use the phrase endless wars. Have you ever heard people like Dan Crenshaw say endless wars? No. So, Winter asked, did Biden actually say that? Probably lip service, but come on, Joe. No, Biden said a lot of bad stuff. Like, Biden's tweeted out praise and sympathy for thugs that resisted arrest because the progressive mob basically mandated that he do it. Even though he doesn't need the progressives. He won every county in Florida. He won every county in Ohio. Bernie won 0. Bernie, the progressives, they're irrelevant. They can be rendered and relegated to the dustbin of history. Biden, if you or any of your staffers ever listen to the stream, understand you don't have to negotiate with these people. You do have to negotiate with Republicans. You don't have to negotiate with progressives, because Republicans have power and Republicans have influence. Progressives have no power. Progressives only have influence because you and your acolytes allow them to, right? Because if we all just said we're just going to ignore the progressives, what would they do about it? Well, they couldn't do anything because they have no power, because nobody likes them. They don't win very many seats. They only have a few real candidates. Bernie Sanders isn't even a Democrat. He's a socialist. He just registers for the party when it's convenient in the run-up to the elections. In other words, he's not committed to the party. If you are in the mainstream of the Democratic Party, if you're in the establishment of the Democratic Party, why are you going to give any lip service to those who want to hijack your party against you? That's weak. You should understand that that's not a good strategy. And it's one thing to try to appeal to them in the primary so that you can become the nominee. It's another thing when you are the president-elect and you're still doing it. That's cringe. That's not wise. That's not wise at all, because you're giving them a vastly disproportionate amount of influence. And I don't like that. I don't like that. Joe needs to step his game up. So, well, let's continue. The, quote, only way to deal with terrorists, Morell said in a 2015 interview with Vice News, quote, is to keep pressure on them at all times. That's right, at all times. All times. Oh, right, we should add the article back on here, right? At all times, right? So not this, oh, it's been 19 years. It's like, are there still terrorists? Yeah. It's like, oh, so it's going to be longer than 19 years. Otherwise, don't be surprised when another 9/11 happens. When you take pressure off, they start planning, and they are successful in that planning. Wasn't that what I was just saying, right? People can learn a thing or two from this guy that they reflexively oppose. Reuters was first to report that Morell and Haynes had emerged as leading contenders to take over the top spy positions in a Biden administration. A former longtime Republican national security official who knows Morell indicated that he wants to take on the role, and concerns about his past shouldn't be an impediment. Concerns about his past? What do you mean? Concerns about his past? Okay, we're stopping the article again. Concerns about his past? The guy has one of the best resumes in the world. What do you mean concerns about his past? Oh, he supported interrogation and he supported drones. It's like, yeah, he's running to be director of the CIA. He's not in the running to be the director of Greenpeace. Those would be concerns if he was trying to be like the head of, I don't know, like Al-Qaeda or something. He's not. He wants to head the CIA to fight for America. So, concerns about his past. What, you mean concerns about him being awesome and based and hawk-pilled and a champion and a lion? No, I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to say it right now. Mike Morell is a lion of liberty. I want you to understand that. You know, you can disagree with him. You can say, whatever, this and that. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? You know, I mean, hell, I'm disagreeing with him. I think he should have been more blatant about saying he wanted to assassinate AsSAD. But, you know, he wants to do it covert. And my hope here is that he's not going to tell you his true intentions in any sort of public interview, because he doesn't want you to know what he's actually thinking. Kind of like how John Bolton's not going to just say he wants to nuke North Korea or something, because he doesn't want them to know what he's up to if he comes back into the White House. So here's the deal. Mike Morell, Lion of Liberty. This, whatever her name was, Wyden or something, sheep of pigeonry. That's who she is. So let's get Morell in. Let's not screw around with anybody that's not for drone strikes. That's like the bottom line. That's the entry level. That's the level the bar's at. I mean, it's a low bar. If you're not for drone strikes, you can't be director of the CIA. That's not controversial. So let's move on. He's not an arrogant guy at all, if you know him, said the source. Obviously, he's highly professional. He's the kind of guy who will do the job. Okay, so what's the problem? During President Donald Trump's term in office, Morell has been a CBS commentator and hosted a podcast in national security circles, Intelligence Matters, which has been a redoubt for Democratic-aligned intelligence figures during the Trump era. Guests have included Tony Blinken. Now that's a man we're going to talk about in a future video. May pre-recorded stream, or not stream, pre-recorded video, may a live stream, we'll see. Whom Biden nominated as Secretary of State on Monday, and Jake Sullivan, Biden's announced national security advisor. Well, one Republican intelligence official described Morell as a, quote, straight shooter with integrity, some Democrats are likely to question his legacy. Yeah, those Democrats questioning his legacy, yeah, you should question their loyalty to not just America, to the West, to the Enlightenment, to our civilization at that point, right? I have not seen anything about this guy, apart from not just outright saying, you know, I want to kill AsSAD, but again, he wants to be covert about it, so I get it. There's nothing. This guy's stellar. He's pitch perfect. He's got one of the best resumes in the world. He should be the director of the CIA. And again, it's not like, oh, are they going to choose this guy to be a CEO of a company, or are they going to choose that person to be the CEO of a company? And it's like, oh, I'm rooting for this person, I'm rooting for that person, or it's sports and you want, like, you know, some guy from your high school to get on the team, you know, in the NFL or something over somebody else. And it's like, I can understand why you might like that one person over another. No, these are lives, and these are our lives on the line. This is about life and death. This is about the future and security of our civilization. We don't have the liberty to screw around. You have to pick the line of liberty, right? Otherwise, you're going to lose, you know, because now it is one position that consequential. No. But if you do that time and time again, in every context, you pick the wrong guy because we're bad. Well, don't be surprised when the Russians and the Chinese basically control all of Eurasia. So that's what's going to happen. Let's get back to the article. I think we're almost done. Yeah, we're almost done. You will close to that. In his 2015 memoir, The Great War of Our Time, Morell called drone strikes the, quote, single most effective counterterrorism tool in the last 5 years, unquote, and dismissed accounts of substantial civilian casualties as, quote, highly exaggerated, unquote. By contrast, in 2016, survivors of drone strikes in Pakistan and Yemen have described how the strikes killed and maimed their friends, their young relatives, and their grandparents. Okay, we're stopping it again here. I just said earlier on this evening, collateral damage happens in war, no matter how advanced your technology is. That's a tragic and unfortunate part of war. That's part of why the hawks and the neocons here want to make these wars quick and decisive and win, so that they don't get drawn out. There's no wavering commitment. There's no refusal to stay the course. It's just you go in, you stay the course, it's done. You never have to go back. The world is a better place thereafter. People are free thereafter. That's what we want. That's what we want. And you can say you're anti-war and you're against this and everything. No, that means that you want these things to be drawn on for a long time. And even if you do succeed in pulling out, you'll just have to go back later, and then go back later, and go back later. And then you'll say, oh, see, we told you Afghanistan was you know, always going to be a hotbed that you could never tame. And it's like, no, if we had real leadership, so like 20 years of neocons, Afghanistan would be free and democratic. So let's just stay the course. But again, they're bringing up examples of collateral damage. Nobody ever said that civilians didn't get injured and killed as a result of the drone strikes. Collateral damage happens. You think America purposefully intended to do that? You think that it's ever possible to do a war or to engage in these kinds of strikes against that many terrorists and have no civilian casualties? Of course there are going to be civilian casualties. You don't get to say, somebody got injured, therefore you can never uphold your national security interests again. No, that is a pathetic appeal. right there. Now, when I say pathetic appeal, I mean that in both senses. I mean it's pathetic, as in it's weak, it's meek and weak, it's bunk and junk, it's fringe and cringe. But I also mean it in the actual technical sense. It is of pathos. It is in the actual sense. It is an appeal to pathos. It is an appeal to emotion. It is pathetic, literally. Right? So there are appeals to authority. There are appeals to pathos. That right there, that is a pathetic appeal. So I want you to bear in mind, that is completely irrelevant. Well, we'll go back to the article. Their friends, their young relatives, and their grandparents. Oh, some of them were young and some of them were grandparents. Yeah. Maybe those guys, maybe we should just have a world without terrorism. Wouldn't that be better? Maybe we should just try to win the war on terrorism, and then that kind of stuff never has to happen again. The implicit here is that Mike Morell supports that. That Mike Morell is somehow proud that innocent people were injured and killed. I despise this, man. I absolutely despise this narrative. That is an anti-American narrative right there. That's basically implying that that was America's fault, that America intended to do it. And what you ignore here, what you leave out, isn't it so cute how they leave this out, is that the terrorists that were targeted, they also have a lot of blood on their hands. A lot. Soleimani, for example, about 400,000 people. That's how many people he has overseen the murder of, while he was alive. But if you kill Soleimani, now there weren't collateral damage there, but if you killed Soleimani and say 3 civilians died, you could say, oh, look, a child died. It was bad to kill Soleimani. Okay, but how many tens of thousands of children did Soleimani oversee the deaths of? That's never going to be put in an article like this. Daily Beast is anti-war. Daily Beast is anti-neocon. So somebody has to dissect and debunk this, right? The bunk and junk narrative of the brainlet brigades. That's what I do. I'm Kevin Castley. That's what I do. So what I will say here is there's somebody I follow on Twitter, Kareem Rafai. He recently held up signs. I don't have the images with me right now, at a protest, and he said basically, don't pull troops out of Iraq, and Soleimani killed my family. So he knows full well what these terrorists are capable of doing. They cause a lot of collateral damage. They cause, if for them it's not even collateral damage, terrorists intend to kill civilians. Terrorists intend to kill civilians. The CIA does not. America does not. America goes after enemy combatants. America goes after enemies of the West. Nobody's proud. Nobody's happy that civilians were injured or killed. But to leave out that terrorists were killed, that the targets were taken out, to leave that out, I mean, oh my God, it either comes from a place of absolute juvenile incompetence and ignorance and naivete on the part of the authors, or it comes from a place of malice, malfeasance, nefariousness, that this was, that this was a lie of omission, essentially, that they just don't mention the terrorists that were killed. Because that article would read very differently if they included the targets and their past, the blood on their hands. Might read a little bit differently. The young children that they oversaw the deaths of, the grandfathers that they oversaw the deaths of, right? God, can we just get some neocons in power, man? Can we get some neocons back in journalism and everything? By the way, if you guys want to check out a paper that doesn't engage in this type of cringe, my friend Wyatt Claypool helps run the National Telegraph. It's a conservative Canadian publication. and they don't write articles like this. So, you know, they don't engage in this type of juvenile behavior. Go check them out. A lot of their articles are quick reads. They're very succinct and to the point. I'm a busy guy. Everybody knows I'm a busy guy. I don't have time to read a bunch of different stuff and everything. So for me, one of my go-tos is the National Telegraph. So check them out. Net7 is here. He says, we also need to question some of the allegations. Not everyone is telling the truth. There are people who have a political motive to make false claims to try and delegitimize our presence in the region. Oh, and that's true too. And that is absolutely a good point noted by Net7. I'm just responding to the appeal to pathos here. Look, I never said collateral damage didn't happen, but to focus on the collateral damage as if it was intentional misses the point. It leads me to think you don't actually understand what collateral damage is. Now, I'm not talking to you guys. I'm not talking to Net7. I'm talking to the authors of the article here, you know, and we can go back. Let's make them famous. What are their names? Aaron Bonko, Hannah Trudeau, Spencer Ackerman, and Sam Stein. Those guys should be embarrassed. Those guys should be absolutely embarrassed for publishing this thing. Embarrassing, because it either means that they're naive and juvenile and they are in dereliction of their duty as journalists, or it means that they are nefarious, they are malfeasant, and they are committing a lie by omission here, by conveniently leaving out the terrorists that were killed in those strikes and how many people they killed and plotted to kill and would have continued to kill had they not been taken out by America, the vanguard of liberty. Maximus is here. He says, Soleimani was a human butcher and responsible for some of the worst atrocities of the war in Syria and Yemen and Iraq. The parallel that comes to mind is Reinhard Heydrich of the Third Reich. And that, I know some people say, oh, anytime you bring up the Nazis, anytime you bring up Heydrich or Hitler, that you've lost the debate or whatever. No. I want to be very clear about something here. 98 to 99% of the time, when somebody brings up literally Hitler or literally Heydrich, it's hyperbolic. It's inappropriate. It's weak. It's dumb. It's cringe. But when you have 400,000 people, when you have the blood of 400,000 people on your hands, is it inappropriate to compare that butcher to Reinhard Heydrich? No, it's not. That's actually an apt comparison. That would be an appropriate comparison. That would be a rare time in which a comparison to the Nazi leadership is actually apt. It is actually warranted. That Soleimani was in many ways the Heydrich of our era. And Donald Trump was the one who signed off on his death. And for that, he deserves a lot of credit. And people can minimize it and they can say, well, you know, he just approved the strike and everything. No. I get that. But here's the thing. Donald Trump so easily could have listened to Tucker. So easily could have listened to someone like Bannon. So easily could have listened to even more, perhaps a Pompeo figure, given the extent to which he's been meek and weak lately, vis-a-vis the Taliban. He could have listened to those voices around him and said, look, this isn't going to help your base, man. This is bad. We're bad. That you might start World War III bad. And you know what Donald Trump said? In the face of all that, he said, no, I'm signing off on the strike. So, of course, Donald Trump gets credit for that. Because if you said, you know what, I'll flip it. Let's say it was Barack Obama. Barack Obama is going to approve that strike. Now, I disagree with Barack Obama. But, like, he killed bin Laden. I'm against him on North Korea. I'm against him on Iran. But when it came to these terrorist actors and stuff, you know, he would be open to the drone strikes. He would do them. You wouldn't tell Obama, hey, man, we got a 100% chance or a very high confidence that this guy's here. He's done all this. Can we get the okay? Of course, Obama's going to give you the okay. Now, does Obama get that credit? Yes. And it's better that he's more inclined to give the okay. But it's not surprising Donald Trump doing it is actually surprising, because we, in many ways, would have expected him to let Soleimani go, because sovereignty and anti-war and America first and all that kind of stuff. The fact that Donald Trump did it and, you know, risked his popularity with his base and everything, that actually took a lot of courage. And Donald Trump deserves not more credit than Obama for bin Laden, but he deserves disproportionate credit, because it was in his nature to not do that. And he stood up and actually acted like a lion there. So Donald Trump gets a lot of credit for that. And for all the never Trumpers out there, for all the people who are going to be like, oh, Trump would, like, he's like Hitler, man, and all this. No, he's not. He literally approved the strike to kill a guy that is actually analogous to Hitler, one of Hitler's right-hand man. So I'm not a Trump shill, right? Like I'm not like I was for Biden and everything, but the thing is, you have to give credit where credit is due. That 7 says, yes. Can you believe that Kremlin Kyle called the murderer an anti-ISIS fighter? Oh, yeah. No, 100%. That's like calling Stalin an anti-Nazi. It's like, oh, wow. And Net 7 says he goes with nefarious to describe the authors of the article. So Maximus says, Kremlin Kyle called Hezbollah a defense group against ISIS. That's like calling the Nazis a defense group against communism. Yikes. That's kind of a big yikes. Really? We're going to shill for Hezbollah? Oh, I also like how it's called Secular Talk. Oh, yeah, that was Secular Talk, the channel where we defend the terrorists and conduct apologetics for the Ayatollah. Oh, yeah, because that's what secular people do, right? They defend the Ayatollah regime. What a goofball. What a goofball, man. And he gets paid almost $200,000 a year to do that. Almost $200,000 a year. That's Kyle Kolinsky. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. People actually pay him to defend the worst people in modern history. I guess we're going to go back to the article. It takes forever to get through this. In a 2016 New York Times op-ed endorsing then Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton and excoriating Trump, Morell credited the CIA's counterterrorism center chief, who ran the drone strikes at the time, as the single person, quote, most responsible for keeping America safe since September 11th attacks, unquote. The individual, Michael D'Andrea, reportedly went on to run the CIA Iran operations under Trump. Morell did not identify D'Andrea, whose identity is an official secret. Okay, let's continue. Morell took a lead role in excoriating the Senate Intelligence Committee's landmark 2014 report on CIA torture, even taking issue with the word torture. Okay, good. So do I. A characterization he disputed, despite the CIA having inflicted mock drowning, sleep deprivation, severely restricted diets, and painful physical contortions on at least 39 people out of at least 119 it held at unacknowledged prisons from 2002 to 2008. Yeah, those were terrorists, so spare me your tears. Some of them experienced sexual assaults in the guise of rectal rehydration or rectal feeding. One was subject to a mock execution. Another, yeah, well, okay, but the people the people who died on 9/11 actually suffered a real execution. So I don't care that a terrorist suffered a mock execution. Oh, you can complain about torture all you want. Cry me a river. They are the enemy, and that is mercy by the United States. The United States could have just taken them to a wall and dealt with them then and there, and that would have been done. Another, Gul Rahman froze to death in a CIA prison. Okay, but literally almost 3,000 people died on 9/11 in fire. So I don't care that a terrorist, a wannabe hijacker, died of freezing. Good. It's one fewer enemy in the world. Let's continue. Quote, I don't like calling it torture for one simple reason. To call it torture says my guys were torturers, Morell told Vice in 2015. I'm going to defend my guys till my last breath, unquote. Well, so he should. So he should. Look, if you're going to be in the military, in the CIA or whatever, wouldn't you love to have a commanding officer? Wouldn't you love to have a man in a position of leadership who's got your life, you know, like his decisions that he signs off on, potentially put you in harm's way to an extent that you might die. You might not come home. Wouldn't you love to know that that guy is going to have your back till the end of the earth, come hell or high water, I should say? Can we just for once stop sympathizing with the terrorists and start sympathizing with the brave men and women of the American Central Intelligence Agency and the American Armed Forces, as well as the armed forces and intelligence agencies of all Western nations? Why are we going to simp and shed tears for those who strap suicide vests and blow up children and use kids as human shields and fly planes into buildings and decapitate people and literally murder women for having the audacity to seek even a basic education? Why? These people are the enemy. These people deserve far worse than the CIA did to them. Now, the CIA did what they did to extract information. That's why they didn't just straight up kill them. But the CIA just straight up killed them. They are enemy combatants. They are enemies of freedom. I mean, it is an act of mercy that they were not simply executed. So no, I disagree with the characterization as well. And I love that. I wish that every president, I wish that every prime minister of Canada, I wish that every acting director of our intelligence agencies, I wish every commanding officer in the armed forces, that they would all have that that attitude. Quote, I'm going to defend my guys till my last breath. You know, he would be a poor leader if he had anything less than that. You know, like that's the kind of guy that even if you know that you're going to die in service under his leadership, you know he did everything in his power to reduce the risk of that happening, and everything in his power to defend you and defend your legacy and defend your honor. Now, Mike Morell is a champion. He's a lion. I'm telling you right now, he's a lion of liberty. So we'll continue. Morell clashed with Senator Dianne Feinstein. We'll bring the article back. A Democrat of California, the former chairwoman of the Senate Intelligence Committee who ran the chamber's torture investigation. Her office in 2015 issued a 54-page rebuttal to Morell's account of the torture program. A representative for Feinstein did not return a request for comment. Oh, interesting. I mean, Daily Beast, they seem pretty amicable to your narrative, so why decline the request? Seems like they'd be happy to have you and commiserate with you about how ghoulish the CIA is because they kill terrorists and stuff. Morell, in his 2015 Vice News interview, appeared to defend not only the efficacy of torture, whatever, which the Senate report's declassified version said was not only nil, but obscured by an edifice of agency lies, but its morality. Okay. Yeah, but the Senate's led by a bunch of feckless Democrats that did not have the national interest at heart. Continuing. There's another side to the morality coin, Morell said. What's the morality of not using these techniques on a detainee if you really believe that you have to do that in order to save American lives? And so the question of morality gets really hard. No, it doesn't even really get hard. Morell's 100% right there, except for the hard part. Like if I'm in that position and I got to choose between like Americans that I'm put in charge to protect and a terrorist, seriously? Like, okay. We'll just move on. Both Morell and Haynes supported their former CIA colleague Gina Haspel a central figure in CIA quote-unquote torture, whom Trump appointed as CIA director in 2018. It's Daniel J. Jones, who was the Senate's chief torture investigator, leaving the intelligence community in the hands of Haynes and Morell would be the latest consequence of Obama's decision to look forward and not back for accountability over CIA torture. Yeah, well, Obama was actually right to do that. So, continuing. Among the reported contenders for CIA director, Morell would be the most disappointing nominee, unquote, Jones told the Daily Beast. Oh, well, if Morell's the most disappointing candidate of those that are available, perhaps you're the most disappointing citizen of those that are available. Perhaps you're the most impressing fifth column to Daddy Vladdy in Moscow, perhaps. So let's get back to the article. As deputy director, Morell showed he was incapable, and we're quoting again, of holding CIA officers accountable for the most blatant wrongdoing. Oh, they were mean to the terrorists, man. They did mean things. They did spooky things. Morell continues to deny the CIA engaged in torture, notwithstanding that the CIA's interrogation methods included waterboarding and these other bad things, mean things, unquote, Jones said. Quote, and his disrespect for legislative oversight should be disqualified. Okay, we're not even getting through that quote. Disrespect for legislative oversight? Are you kidding me? It's the CIA. Oversight? The stuff that they do is top secret. Why are a bunch of feckless, incompetent Democratic senators going to get an opinion on this? They obviously don't understand national security. They obviously don't they don't have the heart for this business. They don't have the heart for getting tough on the enemies of freedom. They can debate and talk about like taxes and environmental regulation and all that kind of stuff. I don't care. But this? No. Why do they get a say over the CIA? I would have disrespect for them too if I was the director of the CIA. Stay out of his business. Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to compromise American security? Like, were you not around for 9/11? These guys are senators. I'm guessing they're older than 15 years old. I know Feinstein is older than 15. I know she knows what 9/11 is. Would you like 2.0? Because that's what you're going to get if you start simping for the terrorists. Let's go back. So, how could someone with Morell's history be the nominee when we know how much Biden values oversight and accountability? Because valuing a system and a society with oversight and accountability requires having those that defend your society and your civilization. If we can't let spies be spies and do top secret work that's top secret, then the Russians will win. The communist Chinese will win, and then there will be no oversight over any aspects of our society. So let the CIA, the spy's gonna spy, bro. That's their job, bro. And you can go back and, sit at the little kids table, the widow kids, where you guys talk about how like war is bad and stuff. But leave this kind of stuff for the big kids. Because you guys are proving yourselves, like Feinstein and Weidel and these other goofballs. You guys are proving yourselves. You're incapable of sitting at the big kids table. You guys are a bunch of will kids. And that's cool. I heard that there's crayons and there's Ronald McDonald the clown. And he's doing like, blow up balloons and stuff and making like funny noises with his mouth. And like, he's got like a funny face. He's got like face masks on. That's at the will kids table. You can go and play around with like colors and stuff at the will kids table, but like leave the CIA and the drones and the interrogation and the national security and the nukes and all that. Leave that to the big kids. How about that? You can go and be a pigeon. Just do it at the little kids table. How about that? How about we have a deal there? Because then I don't even have a problem with Feinstein. Like if Feinstein wants to have all these feelings, but not try to tell the CIA what to do, that's great. You can be against what the CIA does, You can be unnerved by it. You can say, oh man, that makes me uncomfortable. Great. You don't have to sign up for the CIA. It's a tough job to get hired for. Really long training process, really stressful job, right? You can work literally anywhere else. It's a free country. Why is it a free country? Because we got brave men and women who sign up to work at the CIA and other aspects of the conventional military. So how about that? I mean, Feckless Feinstein? Yeah. Amazing. No, Feckless Feinstein. I'm just seeing W.R. Winter's comment here. Feckless Diane. No, I'm calling her Feckless Feinstein. That's her nickname from now on. That one's going in my notepad on my phone, where I actually keep track of all the nicknames and the catchphrases and all that kind of stuff. Because there's so many. There's just so many now. I don't want to forget about any. They're all gold. So none of them are silver. They're all gold. Whereas Kyle's, none of his even make bronze. They're all trash heaps. Tap Shaker? Amy Cloudboot Jar? Yeah, no, that's not bronze tier. That's not even last tier. They didn't even start the race. Let's get back to the article. See, like it takes over an hour to get through like a 5-minute article. So after this piece was published, Nick Shapiro, former deputy CIA chief of staff and spokesperson for Morell, commented, Michael Morell is one of the smartest, most dedicated, and hardest working intelligence officers we have. Good. Let's hire him. You know, like, come on, Joe, hire this guy. He has served both Democrats and Republicans for decades. So he's also comfortable working with both sides. That's good too. Thought Joe Biden wants to work with both sides. That's good. He will undo some of the division. That's good. He was by President Bush's side on 9/11 and with President Obama when we removed Osama bin Laden. So he sounds like an excellent candidate. Like, okay, everything that they've gone over in the article so far makes this guy sound more based than I already knew about him. Like this he could actually substitute as his cover letter. Like, if I'm Mike Morell and I'm a busy dude, like he's a former acting director of the CIA. This dude's a busy hot. Do I have time to write out a long cover letter or whatever? No. I know it's not like a traditional job application process, but let's just go with this example. Go with this analogy. Or am I just going to say, you know what? I'm not going to bother writing my own cover letter. I'm just going to show them this copy of Daily Beast article highlighting my past. Because that's a better resume than anything that anybody could write. That's a better cover letter than anybody could write. Like, you write your own cover letter and you're going to say things like, well, you know, I did this, and you're going to be like, you know, you'll try to sell yourself, but you are also yourself. And even if you have a pretty big ego, you also are aware that you're one human and you might be humble in some ways and whatnot. The Daily Beast here makes him out to be a living god. They make him out to be a base champion. This is a better cover letter than basically anybody except maybe Donald Trump could write. Because Trump has no humility whatsoever. Like, he's not a humble dude. He's just straight up be like, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, I win, I take wins, I have the best deals, the biggest deals, we're going to win bigly if you hire me. Like, if you don't hire me, I'll fire you, that kind of thing. That's Donald Trump. So Mike Morell, not really that kind of guy. This would be a good cover letter. Just see, like, hey man, look at all these accomplishments right here. Like, they're unintentionally selling his case right now without even knowing it. They're just making him sound more badass. Like, he sounds like James Bond, you know? Morell was not in any way involved with the creation of the EIT program and enhanced interrogation. What was the EIT stand for exactly again? Enhanced interrogation techniques. That's right, program. And he did not even learn about it until 2006, 4 years after it started. He publicly stated in a 2013 60 Minutes interview and wrote in his 2015 book that he believed waterboarding is indeed torture. Shapiro continued using an acronym for enhanced interrogation techniques, the CIA's preferred term for torture. Now, while enhanced interrogation and torture are different things, Just like, okay, whatever. Continuing. Morell believes there were many mistakes with the IT program and has written extensively on them. And that is the end of the article. We actually made it through, ladies and gentlemen. We actually did it. We are at almost the 2-hour mark, you know, close, but we made it. We made it. So I'm going to wrap this up now, but Mr. Biden, be sure to hire this guy. Be one of probably the best choice you ever picked for any position. And though Blinken's a pretty good pick, by the way, for Secretary of State. So not bad, not bad. We'll talk about that at a later date. So, yeah, Morell, not a bad choice. Not a bad choice. Now, he hasn't picked him yet in the talks. Hopefully the aggressive gremlins, you know, we all know they're fuming and dooming. And I said, I'm like, we don't have the time to go over the aggressive gremlins on Twitter. We barely had the time to get through this article. So, yeah. That's it. That's all I got for you here. So be sure to like this video. Subscribe to my channel, Superpower Broadcasting. I do daily streams. You know, not every second day, not 3 times a week, not weekly. No, daily. Daily. You know, I'm tenacious. I'm a tenacious hawk. I do these streams every day. Additionally, you can follow me over on Twitch. You can also follow me on Facebook at Superpower Broadcasting, because we stream to all 3 of those places simultaneously. And big ups to the guys at StreamYard for, you know, enabling us to broadcast to 3 locations simultaneously under the premium program. And big ups to the patrons for covering the cost. So that's awesome. Additionally, if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my Patreon. The link is in the description below. That's patreon.com/Superpower Broadcasting. So once we hit $100 a month, there will also be daily pre-recorded videos premiering in the early part of the day and daily live streams airing in the late part of the day. So double the content, 14 uploads a week essentially instead of 7 on average. That's pretty good. Pretty good. We're about $19 away. So very close, over 4/5 the way there. You guys are awesome. Stay golden. Keep on rocking in the free world. But if you'd like to send your boy a tip and you can't sign up for a full, you know, month-to-month commitment, I get it, you know. Tough times. We got a pandemic and everything right now. My PayPal is in the description as well. So I appreciate all the support that I've received here. We've received a vastly disproportionate amount of financial support for my work here compared to what a typical YouTube channel of this subscriber range would expect to receive. I mean, you guys have close to paid for the cost of the new $1,700 computer equipment over the course of the last few months. That's really awesome in terms of all the donations and everything. So I really appreciate that. But we're just getting started, right? And if you like to double the content, very close on the Patreon level. So I'll be back here tomorrow night, though. So thank you for bearing with me through all this. I know it was an annoying article to get through, but you know, I think we dissected a lot of fringe and cringe and bunk and junk narratives. We also highlighted why Morell would be a good choice for the CIA, and hopefully Biden makes the right decision. So thank you for watching. Have a good evening, everybody. Peace. Oh yeah, and of course, happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the United States. So.